My sister had her daughter, Asha, when she was 25. Asha is now 21 and she has nothing to do with my sister. My sister was never really a good mom. Not when Asha's dad was alive, not when she became a young widow, and not when she decided to focus on herself after losing her husband. Asha did not have an easy time with my sister, and while my sister went through a lot as well. She was stable in her job, she had support from friends and family, she had a house, she had any number of resources at her fingertips, but she still chose to be a checked-out mother who really didn't value her child. Asha spent most of her time with her paternal uncle because of the connection to her dad and their shared grief. He was also amazing to her and stepped up where my sister failed. But Asha still saw me and my parents a lot, and I was the person she went to for more motherly things. She knew it was a waste of time asking my sister, so she found ways around everything, where my sister's advice or guidance wasn't needed. But it wasn't easy on her. She used to say how embarrassed she was at school when everyone was talking about their parents and she couldn't talk about hers because her mom never made time for her, never said nice things to her, etc. She didn't even know how old her mom was or what she did for the longest time because my sister was so absent and never shared. She asked my parents one time at their house because she needed to answer for homework and was called lazy by teachers previous years for not answering. Asha cared less over time and focused more on a life without my sister, and by the time she was 18 Asha had a solid plan and moved out. It was also by that time my sister was remarried and expecting a child with her current husband. My sister's husband appeared to have this belief that Asha would be engaged in the life of their child, and he was super shocked when he realized Asha was leaving and wasn't staying in touch. But he knew who he married and he knew how bad of a mom my sister was. My sister even said their first child together and their second were her chance to do things right. She has frequently said this. Which is why I brought this up last week when my sister had complained that Asha has not met the kids and blocked her after calling her husband and kids my sister's do-over family. My sister took huge offense to that and she claimed Asha was lacking in sympathy for how hard it was to be a young widowed mom. I told her she knows she was a bad mother. She knows this is her do-over because she even said the kids were her chance to do things right, not to do things better, but right, and that her words show she knows she was no mother to Asha despite many people trying to help in past years, me included. My sister told me I had no right to judge her and she told me to stay out of her life. Comment 1. NTA. Someone needs to look out for the girl that doesn't have a father, and mentally absent mother. You stood up for your niece. So obviously your self-centered sister took offense to it, as she always will. If it was me, I would double down and say her dead husband would be rolling in his grave seeing the way she treats their daughter. And then add that every time she looks at her new child, she'll feel the burning guilt of abandoning her first daughter in the back of her mind, which is the only reason any new motivation to be a good mom might be coming through. It's not healthy, and I think this new family will fail as well because she hasn't fully healed mentally. Comment 2. NTA. You gave her a dose of reality when she came complaining to you. That's what family should do. Your sister is clearly aware of being the guilty party here, but perhaps she hadn't fully realized that everyone else is aware as well. It's not unusual for someone like her to cut off anyone that reminds her of how majorly she messed up. She'll regret it when she's older. Empathetically speaking, it sounds like she might have had postpartum depression and then just full-blown depression. I hope she's in a better place now and doesn't do it to her new kids. Comment 3. Your sister is so focused on herself and how hard it was for her that she still doesn't get how hard it was for her kid. Selfish. She only lost her husband while the kid lost a father and then her mother in the process. NTA. Honestly, you need to be harder about this. So I, 60F, am a mother of 3 children: Betty 40F, Ethan, 36M, and Cindy, 30F. I got married at 18 and was a stay-at-home mom for a really long time, after which my husband and I started a small restaurant together which over the years flourished well. All my children got good jobs and settled in their lives well. My eldest daughter Betty, however, had her first child, Nora, 17F, when she was 23 and decided to be a stay-at-home mom. I wasn't very happy about her choice, but it was her life, so I let it be, as my son-in-law was a gem of a person. Well, we found out Betty had an affair with one of my son-in-law's friend years ago, but he left her and went to a different country for job. Later she found out she was pregnant, but since she was dating my son-in-law, nobody suspected anything. Well, Nora wasn't his daughter, and truth came out after some blood tests had to be conducted for some checkup, but the blood group didn't make sense. My son-in-law got a paternity test, and sure enough, Nora wasn't his daughter. He divorced Betty, which was really not in her favor, as she was practically homeless with Nora. Even though I did not want to, but still I had to bring them in my house, and decided to pay for Nora's remaining education's fees as well. The thing is, Nora is an extremely bratty and disrespectful person. She wasn't really disciplined by my daughter and doesn't understand the harsh realities of the world. There were so many things which I didn't like about her lifestyle, like her choice of clothes, or the way she talks, or the fact she doesn't help around the house or restaurant at all, but since it's her life, I let it be. One day she brought her friends to the restaurant and they were being extremely loud, so I went to Nora and scolded her to not make so much noise and that others are getting disturbed. To this she rolled her eyes and then whispered to herself, saying, "Gosh, such a petty witch." I had enough of her disrespect and immediately asked her friends to leave. I then took Nora back to home and sternly asked about what she said. At first she denied saying anything, but then I told her how this petty bit was the one to help them out when nobody wanted to as a consequence of her mother's actions, how I am the one who is making sure she didn't have to drop out of college or even have to take student loans. I told her that she better not act up or I'll just kick her out then and there. She started crying and locked herself in her room. When my daughter came back from her part-time job, she went to Nora and saw her crying, who then told everything to her. Betty came to me furious and started saying how I was too harsh on her and that she is just a kid who is still dealing with the loss of a father figure. I was so done with her entitlement that I yelled at her, telling her I was still her mother and she had no right to raise her voice at me. I admit I did say some not very nice things, but felt like she really needed to see how badly she messed up her life and is messing up Nora's life as well. At last I told her that both her and her daughter better not act up or I'll kick them out of my house then and there. After thinking for some time, I told them that Nora would have to work in the restaurant part-time, and even then I would only be paying for half of her tuitions. As for Betty, she would have to start paying for rent. She was saving her money to rent a new apartment, so I didn't ask for any rent, along with their own groceries and other utilities, and she would also help me with the restaurant. Both are giving me the silent treatment, but I couldn't care less. They have been coddled way too much and I will not take their shit anymore. However, I still feel that maybe I might be a bit harsh with the things I said to them. Comment 1. Your first mistake was paying for Nora's education. It was her parents' duty, not yours. Second mistake was putting a stop when Nora was acting bratty over the years. The third mistake was you are too late in enforcing the rules you are now introducing. Whether you hurt them, cussed them out, doesn't matter. You had to be harsh before they misuse your kindness and begin chewing out the hand that fed them up. NTA. Comment 2. NTA. I think if anything, you're being generous. And I understand why. She's your daughter and your granddaughter. That said, they're going to disappoint you. So if you're going to take a hard line, and I think you should, be prepared to have to kick them out. Comment 3. I'm not sure you can legally make a child work in exchange for bed and board. You can't usually charge a 17-year-old rent. Why don't you just charge her mother instead of taking it out on the child? I'm a little skeptical about your version of events because you seem to resent Nora for some harmless things and frankly to resent her for existing. None of this is her fault. Maybe you could lend your daughter some money to rent somewhere? With an agreement that she'll pay back, and when etc. that way you feel you've fulfilled duties, they are safe, long term you're not out of pocket and you have space from each other. I had my daughter young. She is now 12 years old. Her bio dad was around for the first 1.5 years of her life. We split up when she was 1. Our relationship was extremely toxic. He was abusive and started using heavy drugs. He ended up in jail. When my daughter was 2, I met my now husband and he has been dad to her ever since. Bio dad was in and out of jail and still using for about 8 years. He is now out of jail and has been clean for 2 years now. Super proud of him in that aspect. He married a woman older than his mom. I say whatever floats your boat. I'm genuinely happy for them. In the time between getting out of jail and getting married, Bio dad reached out and wanted another chance to get to know his daughter. I welcomed that openly in agreement that it would be a very slow process. It's been about a year with contact once a week. It has gone well minus a few bumps in the road involving his wife. I had sent Bio dad pictures of my daughter. Bio dad's wife also had access to the pictures in the group chat. She went to a job interview that I just so happened to know the interviewer. After the initial interview they were chit-chatting about life, kids, grandkids. Bio dad's wife pulls out her phone, shows it to the interviewer and says, "This is my stepdaughter." Mind you, this part is only about 2 months into Bio dad getting to know daughter. I've met this lady one time and have only ever talked to her over text in the group chat. I felt that was inappropriate, said something nicely to her. She threw a fit and pulled the woe is me card, blaming her reaction on her past. We ended up talking it out. She apologized and all was well. Fast forward to today, she shared a post and in her caption wrote, "My stepdaughter, insert whatever post." It really bothered me once again. To my daughter she is a complete stranger. When it comes to titles like that, I feel like they are earned. I don't feel like she's done anything to earn that. She has never met my daughter in person and has only ever said hi to her over the phone once or twice. I don't want to cause unnecessary drama, but I do want to be open with them and express my feelings just as I would expect them to do if there was something bothering them. I haven't said anything to her this time. Comment 1. YTA. She is technically her stepdaughter, and this title is not earned, it is just to indicate family relationship via marriage. If I understood it correctly, she doesn't take any credit for raising her, she just indicates a mere fact that her husband has a kid. If she claimed to be her mom/bonus mom etc., that would be a problem. Comment 2. I have never understood why women who claim to love their children so much try to deny their children love from anyone else. So she clearly has long-term feelings for your ex, whatever, and sees his daughter as her stepdaughter, and she probably feels that way because he has made it clear to her how important the daughter is, but you are hurt because someone who is a stranger wants to offer her parental love. Make it make sense. Comment 3. NTA. Your daughter barely knows her bio father, so his wife showing around pictures of your daughter and calling her stepdaughter is off. Yes, she is married to the father, so she is in a way stepmother, but both of them have practically no real relationship with the child yet. The part that's really messed up though is bio father's wife showing pictures of a child she effectively does not know on social media and during job interviews, claiming a relationship that's not there. That's so inappropriate. I, 26F, recently lost my dad. He had a 15-year-old son, my half-brother Parker. No one in my family wants to take him due to the fact that he's my dad's affair child, which he conceived during my late mom's cancer treatment. Despite this, I love Parker dearly. Regardless of my dad's massive aholery, Parker is my little brother. I work in a lucrative field and own a nice condo which my, now ex-boyfriend Colin lived in with me rent-free. He did contribute to utilities and other expenses though. We have the perfect home for Parker, and I can't for the life of me think of a single reason that we couldn't take him. When I brought it up with Colin, he said that she didn't want to. I asked why, and he said that he just doesn't feel like looking after a kid. I reminded him that Parker is 15 and won't need constant attention or babysitting or anything like that, and Colin said that Parker would need emotional attention because he lost his father. I asked if he would really rather throw a 15-year-old kid into the foster system than deal with the emotional needs of said 15-year-old, and Colin said yes while looking a bit shameful. I ended up giving him the ultimatum that Parker and I are a package deal, that I would be taking guardianship and that Parker would be moving in. I made it clear that the only choice Colin had was if he wanted to keep the relationship and stay in the house. He called me heartless for choosing my cheating dad's bastard son over our 5-year relationship. I called him heartless for talking that way about a literal child, and he looked at me astonished and went to start packing. I love my ex, I really do, but Parker comes first. He's my own flesh and blood, the only brother I have. Meanwhile there are plenty of other men out there. Still, my heart is breaking now that Colin's moved out. I miss him, but I don't regret my decision. Every time I think about what could have happened to my brother in foster care, I feel more love for my brother and less for Colin. My entire friend group has sided with Colin and pretty much ghosted me, which is what's giving my pause here. Was I in a hole for what I did? Comment 1, NTA. Parker didn't choose his parents. He is lucky you are able to step up and take him, and he will forever be grateful to you for that. Colin, your friends, they are all TA. You are 1,000 times better off without them. Kudos to you for stepping up and being there for Parker. It's you and Parker versus the world. As you said, a package deal, and anyone who can't accept that, fork them. I'm sorry Colin was too selfish to accept Parker. Comment 2. NTA. Your ex and entire friend group are heartless and selfish. In what planet did he think you would let your brother, regardless of the circumstances of his birth, fall into the foster care? From what you have posted, he is basically the only immediate family you have left. You are right, men come and go, and I hope the next guy is a decent human being. This also showed you who your so-called friends truly are. Comment 3. NTA. Important that you make sure Parker knows that your breakup is not his fault, and he hasn't ruined your life. When I was pregnant with my second child, we took in my then teenage brother-in-law. Soon after, I was put on bed rest because I started preterming. Poor kid thought it was his fault due to stress he caused. Had to reassure him several times that it wasn't his fault. My BF 27M and I 25F have been dating for 2 years and marriage is being discussed. In those discussions I brought up wanting a prenup. He was initially okay with it but wanted to know why. I made it clear it was because of my BF's sister. His sister has been diagnosed, a year ago, with borderline personality disorder. She had been through a lot of diagnoses, bipolar, GAD, depression etc., so I'm not sure if this is the final one, but the symptoms seems to line up. Basically his sister self-destructs her own life and is very volatile. She has quit a job on a dime because a boss reminded her not to be late. She was late over 20 minutes, so she quit after breaking dishes. Normally this wouldn't be my problem, but my BF and his family think because he is the older brother he is responsible for her. He has paid for her rent multiple times and even though her a used car when she was homeless. I told him I want a mandatory savings account where we contribute a percentage of our salary and no one can touch it. He is responsible for some of the bills that he must pay and he must contribute to the saving account. Otherwise he would completely empty out savings and I've had to loan him money. What's worse is he are older. If he has no savings and gets sick or needs to take time off, then I'm paying for those things. Basically I do feel like his sister is an anchor and I want the prenup structured to make sure he has to save some of his money and pay his bills so he doesn't just spend all his money on her and I'm left taking care of everything. I have worried this could lead to a divorce and I want it settled before children. He obviously is not happy and thinks if I'm marrying him then his sister is now my sister and I should be happy to help her. I told him I'm not and he can help her after his bills are paid and he has savings, but otherwise I don't want anything to do with her. I've met her several times and she seems like she's on something half the time. He thinks I'm the a-hole for not wanting to help his sister and wanting to prenup to prevent him from using all his money to help her. He's spent thousands helping her and I don't see her getting any better. Comment 1. I'd highly recommend not marrying this man. If it's an issue now, it's only going to get worse over time. If you do marry him, then absolutely get a prenup. Make sure you find a lawyer that is aware of your concerns and writes the contract accordingly. You will definitely regret going through with the marriage without protecting yourself and your future children first. Don't back down on this. Comment 2. In addition, I would suggest keeping separate bank accounts. I've never understood married couples who do, but in your case I wouldn't suggest anything else. I would hate to see him having access to all of your income, and then spending it on his sister.